So, not shockingly, today what's on my mind is Christmas. Or more specifically, the Winter Solstice celebrations, which Christmas adopted. A lot of random, interesting facts about Christmas. Pretty much every religion ever has had a major celebration around the solstice, a lot of them somehow involving some form of gift giving, and every single one of them involving a whole lot of feasting. There's a couple of major reasons for this. One is that people were very superstitious, guess people still are. They would worry that the days were coming to an end, so they feasted and celebrated. Two is that, and this is backed up by modern psychology, people need celebrations. Alright, so one of the biggest things about being an agnostic, atheist, no real religion kind of a guy is that I still need holidays. We all still need holidays. And a lot of atheists, I think, kind of forget that, which is part of why it's not as popular as it could be, because nobody wants the guy with no holidays. But holidays are great, so it is one of my projects to take and pick and choose the best celebrational aspects from different holidays and try and kind of integrate them into my life. Right, back to the solstice. There was a lot of eating. Two major reasons for all the eating, especially in European traditions. One, there wasn't enough food in the winter to feed the animals. So, you killed the animals. Then you had to feed them. And, bonus, feasting. It was almost the only time that many families even had meat all year. And then also, all of the mead and other short-term, like beer fermented beverages, because they made it during the harvest and summer fall, and 4 months later, booze. So you open all your kegs, you kill all your cows, and you just eat and drink like crazy. So some really ancient traditions. One of my favorite places to start with any kind of looking for traditions is the Norse tradition, or Scandinavian, I should say. And I think this is interesting to me because the Scandinavian tradition is Norway, Sweden, Finland, Germany, pretty much everything that I have genetic ancestry from. There's a little bit of kind of wanting to connect with my roots, and then it also, I think, is a really strong informer of later society values. So the Norse had a couple of interesting superstitions around the winter solstice. First, they believed this was the time of year that Odin flew around in his sleigh, making judgments on people he saw and giving fortune to some and just murdering others. It was considered a really good idea to stay inside because apparently a lot more people deserve murder than good fortune. What else did people do while they were inside? Well, they feasted. The Norse celebrated Yule by burning a Yule log. So when we think of a Yule log, or when I think of a Yule log, I think of this small log with like a series of candles in it that comes out of, I don't know which original Christian tradition, but definitely is in Advent. I don't think we called it a Yule log either. We called it something else. Because it was a log, and we put candles in it, and we lit those candles, I always thought it was a Yule log. And it's a very Lutheran thing, and Luther out of Germany, so I guess it's kind of a co-opt of the original Yule log. So the original Yule log was actually a giant friggin' log. You would go out and you'd find the biggest tree you could find, you'd chop that thing down, you'd drag it back, and you'd chuck the middle of it into a fire, and you would burn that thing. And as long as it was burning, you feasted. And this lasted days. Literally days. The reason that this was worth doing was because the Norse believed that every single spark that came off a Yule log was a cattle or pig who would be born in the following year. So the bigger your tree, the more sparks, the more profitable your next year would be, the more food you would have. What did you do while you were waiting for the log to go out? You feasted non-stop. Sure, they slept, but pretty much feasting all the time. How long did the Yule log take to burn? As many as 12 days. 12-day long celebrations, hate to break it to you, really pre-existing Christianity. The 12 days of Christmas, not very Christian. We'll come back to that in a minute. That's how the Scandinavians did it. Next is, how did the Romans do it? Why do we care how the Romans did it? Because we are a Greco-Roman society that claims that we traces all of our roots and all of our beginnings to being Roman. So, we gotta know how the Romans did it. That's just required. So the Romans celebrated something called Saturnalia. Saturnalia was the belief that the god of time, Saturn, had to reset the universe right around the solstice to get the world spinning again and get you light back. Otherwise, no light. Now, in Rome, it was illegal to give gifts. The only way that property could be transferred between two adults was through purchase or death. If you wanted to give someone something, and you just wanted to have that goodwill gesture, how could you do it? Well, while Saturn was resetting the clocks, he was also kind of the god of propriety, rules, and correct order, all associated with the clocks. While the clocks were being reset, he couldn't really pay attention to anything else, and all the rules were suspended, and you could give gifts. It started as a 2-day celebration, and just kept getting bigger because it was so unbelievably popular in Rome. It eventually capped out at around 10 days. 3 or 4 different Roman emperors tried to either remove the holiday or shrink it. And every single time it was so popular that the Romans completely revolted and just killed a bunch of people. And even with sending in their armies, the Romans had to reinstitute it because everybody loves a week of gift-getting and feasting and vacation. What was Saturnalia? In addition to being able to give gifts, there was also a role reversal that took place. Because all the rules of propriety were backwards, there were feasting where the masters served the servants, and the servants sat at the master's table, and the servants dressed like in their master's clothes, and the masters dressed in servants' clothes. Now, in practice, this was elective on the part of the rich people. So some rich people did not participate, but it was a pretty popular holiday. Now, yes, the rich people served the poor people, but usually, or the slaves and servants, but usually the slaves and servants had to make both meals first because the wealthy people weren't really going to actually work. So they'd just bring it out and pretend to serve it to them and laugh and giggle and then go off and have their feast, which was often better than the servants' feast, even though it was in the servants' quarters. So there's a little bit of a question there about who was really role reversal. But still, probably one of the best feasts that the servants got all year and the slaves got all year. That is how you celebrate Saturnalia. Now comes along Christianity, and I've always wondered my whole Christian life why Easter isn't more important than Christmas. Why is there Easter? It's like a little 1 day long holiday. No one really cares. You don't even get many days off. You get 1 day off from school. And that's not even Easter. It's Good Friday. Less important than Christmas. Now, Easter is Jesus' resurrection and the entire thing the religion is based around, as opposed to Christmas, which is Jesus being born. Granted, necessary, but probably less important than the dying and coming back in 3 days and forgiving all of our sins part. And I am not super shocked to find out that in the original church, there was no Christmas celebration. Easter was the big deal. Easter was your big celebration. It was the most important thing. It was your only celebration. Here's a funny thing. I always used to think that they, being the Catholic Church, just co-opted Christmas right at the beginning and just took Saturnalia and converted it to Christmas. No, actually, they didn't have any celebration. But what they didn't do is they didn't stop people from celebrating Saturnalia. Remember, that was impossible. Every time the Romans tried, complete and utter failure, absolute chaos, absolute revolt. And then so Christianity started in the Roman Empire, but Scandinavia continued its traditions for a long time. And even when Scandinavia was eventually conquered by Christians, most Scandinavian traditions persisted until the very, very end of the Middle Ages, like 1800s, 1900s, before they finally kind of went away. And now they're making comebacks. They've only really gone for 50 to 100 years. It was the most tradition-holding area. So when does Christmas show up? Christmas shows up in the 1400s. The Pope decided that they wanted to kind of finally adopt the rest of the celebrations. Now, by deciding to use the existing Yule celebration as Jesus' birthday, decreed to be December 25th by the Pope. Side note, in the Bible, it says the shepherds were in their fields, which did not happen in winter. It only happened in spring and summer. Maybe, but probably not even really early fall. So since that is also in the same hemisphere that we're in, or that we're in America, anyway, there's pretty much no way Christmas happened in winter. Not even close. But they chose it because they needed a holiday that was important enough to co-opt this Winter Solstice. The good part was it was pretty much 100% guarantee that people were going to instantly adopt Winter Solstice celebration because they already did that. So Christmas, super popular, big hit. But the downside is they kind of gave up how they were going to celebrate it. The Catholic Church didn't even really bother decreeing how you were going to celebrate Christmas because it was already so ingrained and so, remember again, impossible to change, that they just ran with it. So what did early Christmas look like? Because early Christmas apparently was awesome. Early Christmas was the best combination of Halloween and Saturnalia that you can imagine, which is friggin' fantastic. So first, they picked up on some of that role reversal from Saturnalia, and they created a position called Lord of Misrule, M-I-S-R-U-L-E, which was a student or really poor person. Apparently, students have always been really poor people, and nothing has changed since the invention of Christmas. Chose a student or really poor person to be this Lord of Misrule, and he would be crowned king, and people would pretend to pander and serve to him, so he became king. So the role reversal thing was still there. And then in addition to the role reversal, this is the Halloween element, people, the poor people, would go around to middle class and rich family houses, and they would demand food. And they would demand not just food and drink, but the best food and drink that the people there had to offer. And then, if they didn't get it, they would perform horrible mischief on them. Again, Halloween, right? But with food instead of treats. But it's kind of like trick-or-treat, right? I mean, you used to get treats, but I'm sure it wasn't candy back in the day. It had to be like pastries or something. So, same thing. Run to your house, food and drink. I guess this is where the caroling went. We went around caroling, and this eventually later evolves into caroling, right? So you go around asking for caroling, and people have to give you food and drink. Here we come, wassailing, right? So you got to give them drink. And in short, Christmas became the time of year where upper-class citizens could repay their real or imagined debts to the poor, which is actually pretty cool. It's one of the original wealth redistribution systems, which makes total sense when you think about it, because when you think about Christmas, you really think about poor people, like in my family unit, right, or like my friend unit. The poor people do cool things that people really like make them a gift or some kind of like throw a party. But the rich people tend to buy really nice things for everybody that those people can't afford. In fact, all of the cameras that I use to make videos, except for the ones that are actually in computers, like that one, I got as Christmas gifts because I am the poor person in my family. Artist, student, poor. Nothing changes. Yeah, it's a really great way to redistribute the wealth in a non-kind of guilty, non-kind of sad way, and it's fantastic. Good stuff, right? Now, when people don't really know, Christmas starts in the 1400s, and then it kind of gets actually like banned in the 17 to 1800s range, and actually has a 19th century revival. How'd that happen? Well, the Reformation, right? So with the Reformation, you had all of the Protestants actually reading the Bible. In the Bible, there's no mention of Christmas, no real reason to celebrate Christmas, no sense that you should celebrate Christmas, and they were like, no Christmas, Christmas bad. So there was a major Protestant revolt of Puritans in England in 1645. They overthrew the king, and they banned Christmas, which was so incredibly unpopular that they were instantly overthrown in another revolt, and this king put right back on the throne who reinstituted Christmas. So learn from the Romans, don't cancel Christmas. You cannot cancel Christmas. People won't let you. We've had the same celebration for like 3,000 or 4,000 years, and everyone tries to cancel it. The Puritans, however, that came to America were even more religiously zealous, and since they were isolated in a small cultist collective, they were able to successfully kind of eliminate Christmas from America until a 19th century revival. 1820 is the first recorded time of department stores listing Christmas sales and trying to convince people to buy Christmas goods. By 1840 it was a whole blown holiday, and by 1870 the federal government finally recognized it. 1870. Think about that. It means Christmas as a federal holiday, we think of this as the biggest holiday of the year, has only been a federal holiday in America for 145 years. That means like 4 living people ago, there was no federal Christmas. Crazy, right? That's the history of Christmas. Very cool holiday. Things I know I'm doing this year, Yule log is totally in. I'm going down into the woods, I'm finding a giant tree, I'm going to cut down the biggest log that I can find, I'm going to drag it back to my house, and I'm going to shove it in my tiny little condo fireplace, and close the curtain so it doesn't burn my house down. And I'm going to light that thing on fire, and I'm going to friggin' party until it goes out. Best 3 days ever. Also, gift giving, totally cool. Think about that when you think about giving your gifts. You shouldn't be giving gifts, well, you should be thinking more about giving than receiving, right? Because the idea here from the gifts should be to give to other people what they lack that you have. So if you have creativity, give them creativity. If you have fun, give them fun. If you have money, give them money, right? Whatever it is that you have, look at kind of like osmosis. Think about this as like gift osmosis. So look at what they've got, look at what you've got, and try and kind of bring the levels together. Please comment in the comments below, maybe best gifts you've ever given, what you plan to do for Christmas, how you celebrate Christmas, Yule, Solstice, whatever you want to call it. And as always, if this video is worth your time, please make it worth my time. Like, subscribe, and share. And I look forward to seeing you all later.